Opening. The Ambush. June 13th, 1944. Villers-Bocage, France. Dawn breaks over the Normandy countryside. British tanker Michael Whitman sits in his Tiger I heavy tank, number 007. His crew is silent, tense. The morning fog hangs low over the hedgerows. Through his periscope, he sees them. The British 7th Armored Division. 25 Cromwell tanks, 28 half-tracks filled with infantry. Hundreds of soldiers moving in a long column down the narrow French road. His radio crackles to life. The voice of his commanding officer cuts through the static. "Whitman, fall back. You're outnumbered 25-1. Retreat to defensive positions." Whitman doesn't respond immediately. He studies the enemy column through his optics. They're moving carelessly, single file, stretched out over 2 kilometers. No scouts, no flanking protection. They're not expecting resistance. He presses the radio button. His voice is calm, almost casual. "Negative, I'm engaging." His gunner looks at him in disbelief. "Herr Obersturmführer, there are too many." Whitman's eyes never leave the periscope. Watch this. What happens in the next 15 minutes will be written into the history books as the most devastating single-tank engagement of World War II. 1 Tiger, 25 enemy tanks destroyed, 0 German casualties. But this is more than just a battle story. This is the story of the Tiger I, the most feared weapon of the Second World War. The tank that changed warfare forever. A machine so powerful it became a legend, so expensive it nearly bankrupted the German war machine, so technologically advanced that its design influences every modern tank on the battlefield today. But here's what they don't tell you in history class. The Tiger I was never supposed to exist. It was built on desperation, designed in panic, and deployed out of necessity. Its greatest strength became its fatal weakness, and the men who drove it knew they were riding both a masterpiece and a death trap. This is the untold story. Welcome to Iron Witness. Part 1. Origins. The Birth of a Monster. Chapter 1. The Eastern Front Nightmare. Let's rewind to 1941. Operation Barbarossa. Adolf Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union. 3 million German soldiers pour across the border. 4,000 tanks, 4,000 aircraft. The largest invasion force in human history. German panzer divisions roll across the Russian steppe like an unstoppable wave. Their Panzer III and Panzer IV tanks cut through Soviet defenses. Town after town falls. Army after army surrenders. In the first 3 weeks, the Germans advance 500 kilometers. Hitler declares victory is within reach. And then they meet the T-34. June 23, 1941, near Raseiniai, Lithuania. German panzer commander Ernst Backe watches in horror as his tank shells bounce off a Soviet tank's armor. His 37mm gun, which had crushed Polish and French tanks with ease, is useless. The shells hit the T-34's sloped armor and ricochet into the air like thrown stones. The Soviet tank doesn't even slow down. It pivots its turret, fires once, and Backe watches his lead panzer explode. Then another. Then another. In less than 5 minutes, an entire German tank platoon is burning. Backe radios back to division headquarters. His voice shakes with panic. "We need bigger guns. We need thicker armor, or we're dead." The report reaches Berlin. German high command reads it and dismisses it as battlefield hysteria. "Impossible," they say. "Soviet tanks are inferior. Our crews are simply inexperienced with Eastern Front conditions." But the reports keep coming. From every sector, every front. The T-34 is faster than German tanks, better armored, more reliable, and it's being produced in quantities that Germany cannot match. By August 1941, German tank losses exceed 2,000 vehicles. Crews are burning alive in their panzers. Morale collapses. Officers send increasingly desperate messages. Send us better tanks or withdraw us from the front. The message finally reaches Adolf Hitler's desk. He reads it once, slams his fist on the table, and gives the order that will change the course of tank warfare forever. I want a tank that can destroy anything on the battlefield. I don't care about the cost. I don't care about the time. I don't care about the fuel consumption or the complexity. Just build it. Build me an invincible tank. This is how the Tiger I was born. Not from careful strategic planning, not from years of research and development, but from raw desperation. Chapter 2. The Design Race. September 1941. Two German companies received the contract to design Hitler's supertank, Henschel and Porsche. Both are given the same requirements. Front armor must be at least 100 millimeters thick. The main gun must penetrate 100 millimeters of armor at 1,500 meters range. Weight is irrelevant. Cost is irrelevant. Speed is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is firepower and protection. But here's the secret that historians buried for decades. The Tiger I design already existed. It had been sitting in a Henschel factory warehouse since 1937, collecting dust. Ferdinand Porsche had designed it 5 years earlier as a theoretical breakthrough tank. German High Command had reviewed the design and rejected it with a single word: impractical. Why? Because the design called for a 57-ton tank. At the time, the heaviest German tank was 20 tons. The design required an 88mm gun, which was classified as an anti-aircraft weapon, not a tank gun. The fuel consumption would be astronomical. The transmission would need to be completely redesigned. The cost per unit would be triple that of a standard Panzer IV. But now, in 1941, with German tank crews burning in the Russian wheat fields, impractical didn't matter anymore. Henschel pulled the old blueprints from storage, updated the design, and presented it to Hitler. April 20th, 1942, Hitler's birthday. Both prototypes are ready for demonstration. The Henschel design and the Porsche design face off in front of Hitler and his generals at the testing grounds in Rostenburg, East Prussia. The Porsche design is innovative. It uses an electric transmission system powered by 2 air-cooled engines. On paper, it's superior, faster, more maneuverable, more technologically advanced. But during the demonstration, disaster strikes. The Porsche prototype's engines overheat within 20 minutes. Black smoke pours from the engine compartment. The transmission seizes. The tank grinds to a halt. The Henschel prototype, meanwhile, completes every test. It climbs steep slopes. It fords water obstacles. It fires accurately at long range. Hitler watches in satisfaction. The decision is made immediately. Henschel wins the contract. Production begins that same month. But here's the dark irony. Porsche was so confident his design would win that he had already ordered 100 tank hulls to be manufactured. When his design lost, those 100 hulls were converted into the Ferdinand tank destroyer. Nearly all of them broke down or were destroyed within months of deployment. The Tiger I, meanwhile, was about to roll off the production line, and the world was about to witness what true armored dominance looked like. Chapter 3. The Technical Masterpiece. August 1942. The first Tiger I rolls off the Henschel production line in Kassel, Germany. Let me describe what the engineers created. Because this wasn't just a tank. It was a technological marvel that pushed the limits of what was thought possible. Weight: 57 tons. To put that in perspective, that's heavier than 3 American Sherman tanks combined. It's heavier than 4 Soviet T-34s. It's nearly triple the weight of Germany's own Panzer IV. Armor. The front hull is protected by 100 millimeters of hardened Krupp steel, sloped at a slight angle. The front of the turret has 120 millimeters. At the time, no Allied tank gun in existence could penetrate this armor at combat ranges. Not the American 75 millimeter, not the British 6-pounder, not even the Soviet 76 millimeter gun on the T-34. The main gun, the legendary 88 millimeter KWK-36L/56. This weapon was originally designed as the Flak 18 anti-aircraft gun, used to shoot down high-altitude bombers. German engineers realized that if a gun could destroy an aircraft flying at 10,000 meters, it could certainly destroy a tank. So they mounted it on a turret. The performance of this gun was staggering. It could penetrate 100 millimeters of armor at 2,000 meters. That's over 1 mile away. It could destroy a Sherman tank at 3,000 meters before the Sherman could even see it. Each shell weighed 10 kilograms and traveled at 800 meters per second. When it hit, it didn't just penetrate armor, it obliterated it. For context, the American Sherman's 75 millimeter gun could penetrate 60 millimeters of armor at 500 meters. The Tiger I could kill you before you even saw it, before you even knew you were in danger. But the 88 millimeter gun wasn't the only innovation. The Tiger I introduced several revolutionary features that would define tank design for decades. The turret could rotate 360 degrees in 60 seconds using hydraulic power. Previous German tanks required manual hand cranks, which could take several minutes. The Tiger's gunner could track and engage moving targets with unprecedented speed. The suspension system used overlapping road wheels, called Schachtellaufwerk in German. This distributed the tank's massive weight more evenly, allowing it to cross soft terrain that would bog down lighter tanks. It also provided a smoother ride, improving accuracy when firing on the move. The optics were the finest in the world. The gunner's sight, the Turmzielfernrohr 9B, had 2.5x magnification and could accurately range targets up to 4,000 meters. Crews could identify enemy tanks long before the enemy could identify them. But here's where the design brilliance turned into a fatal flaw: the engine. The Maybach HL-230 P45. It generated 700 horsepower, which sounds impressive, but remember, the Tiger I weighed 57 tons. The engine was originally designed for a 36-ton tank. This meant the engine was constantly operating at maximum capacity, straining under the weight. Top speed on roads, 38 kilometers per hour. That's 23 miles per hour. Slower than a man on a bicycle going downhill. On rough terrain, the speed dropped to 10 or 15 kilometers per hour. A soldier could jog faster than that. Fuel consumption: the Tiger I carried 540 liters of gasoline. At full load, it consumed 2 liters per kilometer. That meant a maximum range of 270 kilometers on roads, and as little as 80 kilometers cross-country. For comparison, a Sherman tank could travel 660 kilometers on a single tank of fuel. German tank crews developed a dark sense of humor about this. They had a saying: the Tiger I is the most dangerous tank in the world, until it runs out of fuel. And then there was the transmission. The Maybach Olvar OG40 12-16 gearbox was an engineering masterpiece. 8 forward gears, 4 reverse gears, pre-selector system. It allowed smooth gear changes even under heavy load. But it was also incredibly fragile. The gears were designed for a 36-ton tank, not a 57-ton monster. Under combat stress, the transmission would crack, seize, or outright shatter. Out of every 10 Tiger tanks sent to the front line, 3 would break down before ever reaching the battlefield. Not from enemy fire, from mechanical failure. German engineers knew about these problems. They wrote reports. They recommended design changes. But by mid-1942, Germany was losing the war. There was no time for redesigns. The Tiger I went into production with all its flaws intact. And despite those flaws, when the Tiger I finally entered combat, what happened next defied all military logic. Part 2. Battlefield Dominance. The Iron Fist. Chapter 4. First Blood. December 1942. Leningrad Front, Soviet Union. The snow is 3 feet deep. Temperatures drop to minus 30 degrees Celsius. The Eastern Front has become a frozen hell. Into this hell arrive the first Tiger I tanks. Heavy Tank Battalion 502. 4 tanks. Experimental deployment. Soviet intelligence reports back to Stalin. Germans have deployed a new heavy tank. Specifications unknown. Armor thickness unknown. Firepower unknown. January 12, 1943. Near Maga, south of Leningrad. The first combat engagement. 4 Tiger I tanks are positioned in a defensive line. Their mission? Hold the road against a Soviet counteroffensive. At dawn, Soviet reconnaissance reports enemy movement. An entire tank brigade. 50 T-34 tanks supported by infantry and artillery. Soviet commander Dmitry Lavrenenko receives the intelligence report. 50 tanks against 4. The math is simple. He orders the attack. The Soviet tanks advance in waves. Standard doctrine. Overwhelm the enemy with numbers. Close the distance. Soviet 76mm guns can penetrate German armor at close range. It's worked before. The Tigers wait. Hidden in tree lines. Engines silent. At 2,000 meters, the Tigers open fire. The first Soviet T-34 explodes before its crew even realizes they're under attack. The turret lifts off the hull and crashes into the snow. The second T-34 tries to turn, but the shell hits its side armor and penetrates clean through. Fire erupts from every hatch. Within 2 minutes, 8 T-34s are burning. Soviet crews still don't know where the fire is coming from. The Tigers are too far away. Outside visual range, the muzzle flash is barely visible in the snow. Lavrenenko orders his tanks to close the distance. Full speed ahead. Get within firing range. The T-34s surge forward. Engines roaring. Tracks throwing up snow. They need to close to 500 meters. That's when their guns become effective. But they never make it. The Tigers fire methodically, 1 shot every 8 seconds. The German gunners don't rush. They aim. They adjust for windage. They fire. Each shot is a kill. By the time the Soviet tanks reach 1,000 meters, 31 T-34s are destroyed or burning. The survivors panic and retreat. The engagement lasts 8 minutes. Soviet casualties, 31 tanks destroyed. Approximately 120 crew members killed or wounded. German casualties? 0. The Tigers weren't even scratched. Lavrenenko radios back to headquarters. His voice is shaking. They're firing through our armor like it's paper. We can't penetrate them. We can't even get close. Request immediate withdrawal. Soviet High Command issues Emergency Order 325. If you encounter German heavy tanks designated Tiger, do not engage in direct combat. Call for air support. Call for artillery bombardment. Call for anti-tank gun reinforcements. But do not fight them tank versus tank. This is a direct order. The Tiger I instantly becomes more than a weapon. It becomes a psychological terror. Soviet tankers start calling it the ghost tank. British crews call it the death sentence. American soldiers in North Africa, when they first encounter it months later, simply call it the Beast. But the Soviets weren't the only ones about to learn this lesson. The British were next, and they would learn it in the most brutal way imaginable. Chapter 5. Villers-Bocage, The Legend of Michael Whitman. June 13, 1944. Let's return to where we started. Michael Whitman, Villers-Bocage, the ambush that would become legend. Michael Whitman was 30 years old, born in Bavaria, joined the SS in 1937, fought in Poland, France, and the Eastern Front. By June 1944, he had been credited with destroying 138 enemy tanks and 132 anti-tank guns. He was already a legend in Germany. His face appeared on propaganda posters. He'd been awarded the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. He was, without question, the most famous tank commander in the German military. But Whitman wasn't special because of propaganda. He was special because he understood something that most tank commanders didn't. The Tiger I wasn't just a weapon. It was a tool of psychological warfare. June 13, 1944, 8 a.m. Whitman's Tiger I sits concealed in the woods near Villers-Bocage. British forces are advancing toward Caen as part of the Normandy invasion. The British 7th Armored Division, nicknamed the Desert Rats, is leading the advance. They're confident. They've fought in North Africa. They've defeated Rommel. They believe they're unstoppable. Whitman watches them through his periscope. The British column stretches for over 2 kilometers. 25 Cromwell tanks, 28 half-tracks, hundreds of infantry, all moving in a single-file column down a narrow road. This is a catastrophic tactical error. In tank warfare, you never move in a single column. You spread out. You position scouts. You secure flanks. But the British aren't expecting resistance. They think the area is clear. Whitman sees his opportunity. He gives the order, "Driver, forward. Gunner, load armor-piercing." The Tiger's engine roars to life. The massive tank bursts from the tree line and onto the road. The British are caught completely off guard. Whitman's gunner, Balthazar Wohl, fires. The first Cromwell explodes. Fire and smoke pour from its turret. Whitman doesn't stop. He drives directly down the road parallel to the British column. His gunner fires again. The second Cromwell explodes, then the third, then the fourth. The British column is paralyzed. Tanks at the front of the column can't retreat because tanks behind them block the road. Tanks at the rear can't advance to help because burning wrecks block the road. They're trapped. Whitman drives the entire length of the column, methodically, precisely, like a farmer harvesting wheat. His gunner fires, reloads, fires again. Each shot is a kill. Each kill creates more chaos. British infantry jump from their half-tracks and run for cover. Some try to fight back with Piat anti-tank weapons. The rockets bounce harmlessly off the Tiger's armor. 15 minutes. That's how long the engagement lasts. 15 minutes of one-sided slaughter. When the smoke clears, the damage is devastating. 15 Cromwell tanks destroyed, 12 half-tracks destroyed, 2 anti-tank guns destroyed, hundreds of British soldiers killed, wounded, or captured. Whitman's Tiger I, 0 damage. Not even a dent. British commander George Eakins, who survived the ambush, later wrote in his after-action report, "We were ambushed by what appeared to be a single German tank. It systematically destroyed our entire column in less than 20 minutes. I have never witnessed such devastation from a single vehicle. Our crews had no chance to respond. It was a massacre." The news of Whitman's attack spreads instantly. In Germany, he becomes a national hero. Newspapers call him the greatest tank ace in history. Hitler personally decorates him. Propaganda films feature his exploits. But in Britain and America, Whitman becomes something else. A ghost story. a nightmare. Allied tank crews start calling the Tiger I Whitman's Chariot of Death. British officers issue new standing orders. If you encounter a Tiger I, do not engage unless you have numerical superiority of at least 5 to 1, preferably 10 to 1. But here's what the propaganda films didn't show. Here's the part of the story that was buried for decades. 3 hours after the Villers-Bocage ambush, Whitman's Tiger I broke down. The transmission failed. The engine overheated. The tank was immobilized. Whitman and his crew had to abandon it and retreat on foot through enemy territory. They barely made it back to German lines. The Tiger I, the invincible machine that had just destroyed an entire British column, was recovered by British forces and towed away for analysis. The Tiger I was unstoppable in combat, but it was also its own worst enemy. Chapter 6. The Ace Tankers. Let's talk about the men who drove these machines. Because the Tiger I wasn't just a tank. It was a partnership between man and machine, and the men who operated it were extraordinary. Tiger I crews were not ordinary soldiers. They were the elite of the elite. To qualify as a Tiger I crew member, you needed a minimum of 2 years of combat experience. Expert marksmanship scores, physical fitness, because loading a 10-kilogram shell every 8 seconds for hours required immense strength. And mechanical knowledge, because you would be fixing your tank constantly. Out of every 100 tank crew applicants, only 7 were accepted into Tiger battalions, and these men became legends. Let me introduce you to the deadliest tank aces in history. Michael Whitman, 138 tanks destroyed, 132 anti-tank guns eliminated. He fought in Poland, France, the Eastern Front, and finally Normandy. He refused promotion multiple times because he didn't want to leave his crew. He died on August 8, 1944, when his Tiger I was hit by a British Firefly tank. He was 30 years old. His body was never recovered. Kurt Knispel, 168 tanks destroyed. The highest-scoring tank ace in history. Unlike Whitman, Knispel was never promoted or decorated. Why? Because he was openly critical of Nazi ideology. He once punched an SS officer for abusing Soviet prisoners. His superiors buried his achievements because he didn't fit the propaganda image. He died in April 1945, just days before the war ended, when his tank was hit by Soviet artillery. He was 23 years old. Otto Carius, over 150 tanks destroyed. He fought on the Eastern Front from 1943 to 1945. He survived the war and became a pharmacist in Germany. In 1992, he published his memoirs titled Tigers in the Mud. In the book, he wrote, "The Tiger I was a masterpiece of engineering, but it was also a curse. Every day we feared not the enemy, but the tank breaking down. We spent more time repairing it than fighting in it." Johannes Bolter, 139 tanks destroyed. He commanded a Tiger I on the Eastern Front. In one engagement near Leningrad in 1944, his tank was hit 12 times by Soviet anti-tank guns. Every shot bounced off or failed to penetrate. His Tiger survived and destroyed 9 Soviet tanks before withdrawing. Bolter said later, "The Tiger saved our lives every day, but we knew it was only a matter of time before something broke." These men were not Nazis. Most of them weren't even political. They were soldiers, young men caught in a horrific war, fighting in a machine that was both invincible and fragile. And no matter how skilled they were, no matter how brave, they all knew one truth. The Tiger I had a fatal flaw, and the Allies were about to discover it. Part 3. The Turning Point. Weaknesses Revealed. Chapter 7. Allied Intelligence. July 1943. Tunisia, North Africa. The North African campaign is ending. German forces are retreating. In the chaos, something extraordinary happens. The Allies capture an intact Tiger I. The tank had broken down during the German retreat. Its crew had tried to destroy it with demolition charges, but they failed. British forces found it abandoned in the desert, its engine seized, its tracks broken, but its armor and gun intact. British and American engineers swarmed the tank like ants on honey. This is the first time Allied forces have been able to examine a Tiger I up close. They measure every plate of armor. They test-fire the gun. They disassemble the engine. They photograph every component. What they discover changes everything. The Tiger I isn't invincible. It has 3 critical weaknesses. And once those weaknesses are understood, the myth of the unstoppable tiger begins to crumble. Weakness number 1. Side and rear armor. Front armor, 100 millimeters, impenetrable to most Allied guns. But side armor, only 80 millimeters. Rear armor, only 80 millimeters. This means that if you can hit the Tiger from the side or rear, even a standard 75mm Sherman gun can penetrate. British 6-pounder anti-tank guns can penetrate at close range. Soviet 76mm guns can penetrate if they flank the target. Allied commanders immediately issue new tactical doctrine. Never engage a Tiger from the front. Use terrain for cover. Maneuver to the sides. Attack from multiple directions simultaneously. Force the Tiger to choose which threat to face, then strike from the opposite side. American tank crews start training in flanking maneuvers. 3 or 4 Shermans work together. One acts as bait, drawing the Tiger's attention. The others circle and attack from the sides. Weakness number 2. The turret ring. British engineers discover something remarkable. The area where the turret connects to the hull, called the turret ring, has only 25 millimeters of armor. It's the weakest point on the entire tank. If you can hit this spot, the turret jams. The Tiger can't rotate its gun. It becomes a stationary pillbox, unable to track moving targets. British tankers start specifically aiming for this spot. It's a difficult shot. The target area is only about 10 centimeters wide. But if you can hit it, the Tiger is crippled. Weakness number 3. Mechanical unreliability. This is the most critical weakness, and it's not something the Allies inflicted. It's something the Tiger I inflicted on itself. German maintenance records captured after the war revealed shocking statistics. Average operational readiness of Tiger I units, 60%. This means that at any given time, 40% of Tigers were broken down and under repair. Average engine lifespan, 1,000 kilometers before requiring major overhaul. Average transmission lifespan, 150 kilometers of combat operations. For comparison, a Sherman tank's engine could operate for 2,500 kilometers before overhaul. Allied commanders realize something crucial. They don't need to destroy Tigers in combat. They just need to make Tigers move. Force them to maneuver. Force them to drive long distances. The Tiger will destroy itself. And then there's fuel. By 1944, Germany is running out of oil. The Romanian oil fields, Germany's primary source, are being bombed by the Allies. Synthetic fuel production is insufficient. Tiger I units are rationed. Some tanks are ordered to remain stationary, used as pillboxes instead of mobile weapons. Crews are told to conserve fuel at all costs. The unstoppable Tiger becomes a stationary target. But the Allies develop one more weapon, a weapon specifically designed to kill Tigers. Its name, the Firefly. Chapter 8. The Firefly. Death of a Legend. The British have a problem. Their Sherman tanks, supplied by the United States, are being slaughtered by Tigers. The 75mm gun can't penetrate. Crews are terrified. Morale is collapsing. British High Command demands a solution. In early 1944, they create one, the Sherman Firefly. It's a standard American Sherman tank, but with one deadly modification, the British 17-pounder anti-tank gun. This gun, originally used as a towed anti-tank weapon, is mounted into the Sherman's turret. The 17-pounder fires a 76.2mm armor-piercing shell at 900 meters per second. It can penetrate 130 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters. For the first time, the Allies have a tank-mounted gun that can penetrate a Tiger I's front armor. August 8, 1944, Normandy, France. Hill 112. Michael Whitman's Tiger I is advancing with 4 other Tigers from Heavy SS Panzer Battalion 101. Their mission? Stop the British advance toward Caen. British tanker Joe Eakins, commanding a Sherman Firefly from the 1st Northamptonshire Yeomanry, spots the German tanks from a hidden position 800 meters away. Eakins watches through his gun sight. 5 Tigers moving in formation. He identifies Whitman's tank by the number painted on the turret. He orders his gunner, "Target the rear tank, range 800 meters, load APDS." APDS stands for Armor Piercing Discarding Sabot. It's the most advanced anti-tank ammunition available. The gunner adjusts the sight, holds his breath, fires. The shell hits Whitman's Tiger in the rear, just below the turret. The fuel tank ruptures. Fire erupts inside the crew compartment. Ammunition explodes. The turret is blown 30 meters into the air. The hull splits apart. The Tiger burns. Michael Whitman, the greatest tank ace in history, is killed instantly. His entire crew dies with him. His body is never recovered. This single kill sends shockwaves through the German tank corps. If Whitman can be killed, anyone can. The myth of Tiger invincibility dies with him. British and American tank crews gain confidence. The Tiger is no longer an invincible monster. It's just another target. And as the war grinds toward its conclusion, the Tiger I faces its final enemy. Not Allied tanks, not Allied air power, but simple mathematics. Part 4. The Fall, the Numbers Game. Let's talk about production. From 1942 to 1945, Germany produced exactly 1,347 Tiger I tanks. In the same period, the United States produced 49,234 Sherman tanks. Think about that ratio. For every single Tiger, there were 36 Shermans. Germany also produced 492 Tiger II tanks, the upgraded King Tiger model. Total Tigers of all types, 1,839. The Soviet Union, meanwhile, produced 57,565 T-34 tanks. The numbers don't lie. A single Tiger I could destroy 10 Shermans in ideal conditions. But if 36 Shermans attack simultaneously from multiple directions, the Tiger doesn't stand a chance. German tank commander Otto Carius wrote in his memoirs, "We won every battle, but we lost the war. Because no matter how many enemy tanks we destroyed, more kept coming. And we ran out of tanks. We ran out of fuel. We ran out of time." By early 1945, most Tiger I units are non-operational. Not because they were destroyed in combat, but because Germany can no longer supply them with fuel or spare parts. Crews receive orders to abandon their tanks and retreat on foot. Some crews refuse. They blow up their Tigers with demolition charges to prevent capture. The Tiger I, the most feared weapon of World War II, dies not in glorious combat, but in quiet abandonment. But the story doesn't end there. Today, only 7 Tiger I tanks survive in the world. One is housed at the Bovington Tank Museum in England. It's the only operational Tiger I remaining. Its engine still runs. Its gun still functions. Every year, thousands of people come to see it, to hear its engine roar, to understand why this machine terrified an entire generation. The Tiger's legacy lives on in every modern tank. The M1 Abrams, the Leopard 2, the Challenger 2. All of them owe their design philosophy to the Tiger I. Heavy frontal armor, powerful long-range gun, advanced optics. These concepts were pioneered by the Tiger. But the Tiger I also teaches a harsh lesson. In war, the most impressive weapon isn't always the most effective. Symbols of power don't win wars. Numbers do. Logistics do. Reliability does. Germany spent 800,000 Reichsmarks per Tiger. For that same cost, they could have built 4 Panzer IV tanks, or 10 Stug 3 assault guns. If Germany had built 5,000 Panzer IVs instead of 1,347 Tigers, the war might have lasted longer. But Hitler wanted symbols. He wanted propaganda. He wanted fear. And the Tiger I delivered. It became the most legendary tank in history. One Tiger, one legend. One lesson. The most powerful weapon in the world is useless if you can't fuel it, fix it, or field it in sufficient numbers. Thank you for watching Iron Witness. Subscribe for more untold stories of the machines that shaped history.